So rev roaming and PV and all that is a bit more complicated, I think, but in World vs. World, the backline rev kind of thing that we're going for, not too bad. So you're starting out with Dragon as far as your stance. Len, have you played Revenant much?
Not at all. I actually stopped playing Blister. I barely touched it.
Gotcha. Yeah, we were just saying it's kind of a less played class because it's definitely Heart of Thorns related, and a lot of people that more played the first episode haven't even played with it at all. So
Yeah, when I did the PV Heart of Thorns map, I was really disappointed.
yeah,
It was really too chaotic.
yeah, I still hate it, man. The vertical up and down and getting lost and falling to your death. Yeah, it's not my favorite. So.
It's more tolerable now with Skysail, but
Yeah.
You don't like the Baka Raptors?
Not so much, no. Just trying to glide away from them. And then I ended up just using Heart of Thorns as like a place to farm flax, and I would never touch it otherwise. But
yeah. Those muscles, though.
Alright, so you're starting with Dwarf, and the facets work kind of like mantras or signets, depending on what you have experience with. You always want your facet of darkness going. So the one in Dragon there that gives might, or I'm sorry, not might, gives fury. So once combat's happening, you need that one active because it is your stun break, and you can't activate it halfway through combat. You don't have enough time. So you got to keep that active. A, because you need your stun break always available, and B, because Fury. Everybody gets Fury, which is a huge boon that doesn't really come from anywhere else except for Revenants. So every party that doesn't have a Revenant is automatically down because they don't have that boon, which gives 20% crit. So that's a pretty big crippling ourselves if we don't have a rev for each party. Beyond that, you've got a passive boon that gives everybody ferocity. So just by standing near your allies, you're pumping out. They get extra ferocity just because you're there. You don't have to do anything but just be there.
Okay.
So your other facets do similar stuff, but the swiftness, like the Guardians and the NGs can kind of handle. The might, the Guardians and blasting can kind of handle. But the Fury, you got to do that. That's for sure. Like, you need to do that all the time. So if you overdo those facets, you're going to run out of energy, your blue stuff, your blue bar on the left. And that's also where your weapon skills are coming from. So Rev is kind of a little weird with the whole energy management, keeping your blue bar full and not overdoing your facets. But you can turn them off, and then the blue bar starts filling up again. But you can't have too many facets and too many things going on all at once, or you run out of energy, and then you're kind of sitting there until it recharges. So basic, just TLDR, keep the Fury when active. You have a stun break. The other ones, you can use them as you need them, but then turn it back off so you have energy. So you got that going. You're pumping out Fury to your people. They're getting ferocity. You're in your hammer. So hammer for sure. Let me ping here.
Is it better to run Diviners for the increase in boon duration?
So controversial topic. From a boon support standpoint, more on the end of alacrity, more on the end of pumping out might and fury, yes. But on a fast combat world versus world aspect, no.
Okay.
Boon duration doesn't matter that much because it's going to get stripped. Once you're in a fight, it's just going to get stripped. You just have to keep pumping out more.
That makes sense.
So that and also like the way Revenant is kind of used more at this point is less boon and more just straight damage to the face.
Yeah.
So that's where the hammer rev shines. You can just put out an instant load of damage that nobody else can do, not even the scourge.
Target identified.
So let's watch this thing. All right, so your other main benefit is your huge range. You can hit at 1200 harder than anybody else can, particularly your 235 AoEs because those hit lots of people. I can hit them from here. I'm standing right here. So your 2's not going to work because it's elevated. That is elevation based, but drop your 3 and 5 on it. Yeah, we're getting some obstructed. That's the other thing about the Rev. You do have weird stuff with angles. It doesn't like to always work on not flat terrain.
Target identified.
But your main jam is the 235. I'm sorry, the 253. They're all AoEs. They all hit 5 people. The 5 one stuns. The 5 is your big CC. Your 2 is just a big damage, a huge area. The 3 is trickier. The 3 is more your final move, your big bomb if they're already stunned. 5-3 is a cool combo because you can stun them and then whack them. But the catch with the 3 is you cannot move while it's casting. 5 you can move, 2 you can move, the 3 you cannot move. You're just stuck in place while that thing finishes.
Are you vulnerable while you're stuck in place?
You're evading, so you're not going to get hit, but
Okay.
most players know what that looks like, so it's very
Yeah.
fucking obvious what you're doing. So any good target player that sees you doing that knows you're stuck, and they're gonna drop their damage where you're gonna, where you started. So it's a more dangerous move, and they know you're stuck. So if you're in a bad spot, it's better to just skip that one. If you've already stunned them and you've got a good shot at them, it's good. But too many revs just kind of linger and let that happen, and the commander's already moved off and they die. You gotta be a little more careful on that one, I guess.
Okay.
This is actually a really good practice spot. These things keep popping up.
Keep this place in mind for
Target
the
identified.
next one.
Yeah. So your crit is huge because you're pumping out fury. So you're always high crit automatically because of that, as is your group. And with your Marauder / Berserker gear, you should be damn near 75 to 100% crit. You should try for a really high crit chance. And then adding in the ferocity and the power, you're hitting hard with your auto attacks. Your auto attack should be pumping out a bigger 3K, 4K. You should be seeing huge numbers on these things just from your one skill. Food and all that and might comes into play, but the only catch with the one skill though is it is a projectile that is reflectable. So although it's a big hit, you can't just willy-nilly target Zergs with that, or the first Guardian that pokes up a reflect is going to send it right back at you.
Accelerating.
Oh, okay.
But if there's some random guy running around and he's half dead, and you can pop him with the one a couple times, you're going to kill him. They're just not going to make it.
Yeah.
Getting healthy.
So you're the glass cannon of the group. At some point in the game, it used to be Ellie's, but really, like, Hammer Rev is what Ellie's and Rangers wish they could be. Your AOE damage from the 2-3-5 is just stupid. You can hit 5 things at a huge damage amount because of your glassy armor and your fury and whatnot. So if we have a proper group where our here we got something with a break bar, perfect.
Target identified.
So real fight, our necros are in there stripping boons, so the other guys don't have stability and whatnot, and they take off protection, whatever we can do. We're coming in, and yeah, we're just all gonna hit that thing with our 5. So watch the break bar die. Step up right here, get your 5 ready. 3, 2, 1. Just eliminate it. Follow up with the 2-3. Hit him with a little 1. And we'll back up because we're squishy and we have no support. Kite back, dodge. And we start again. 5. We got a stun break and get out of this red circle. That stuff's happening. Just hit him with the 1 a little bit, stand back. Your 1 does more damage the further you are. You are a super range class. So you totally stand back and pew the guy. I guess he's respawning, that's fine. Alright, so we're going to add in the element now of melee. So we've done our fury pumping, we've smacked the shit out of the group with our hammer a few times, commanders, at it, and full push. Okay, it's time to push. So you've got some good stuff you can do. You have your elite, so the 0, whatever it is. And so second spot on that, second use is super speed. Boom. Super speed. Everybody's going super fast for the push. It also is a knockdown, a crazy big wing knockdown. If there's a CC call, you can use it for that as well. CC and super speed. So we need to be going into Mind Switch into Dwarf. Once it's a full push, once it's melee, once we're too close for hammers. So you're going off of your dragon stance, your F1 or whatever it might be on your keybinds, you're going to dwarf. So we're dwarf, which has inherent tanky stuff. Welcome.
Hey guys. Hi.
So what are we looking for in the dwarf? You got your road, which is stability. If you're hearing road calls, that's what that is. That's the dwarf. That can also be blasted for swiftness, so extra bonuses there. And your 3-5 are blasts. Your hammer 3-5 are blasts, so you can blast your own stuff. Put down a road, blast with 5. So if there's a smoke field, you can blast right on us. You can blast that smoke field, get even more stealth out of it. But so we got our roads down. We're pushing in. We're going melee. We're getting closer. It's on. Your elite is damage reduction. So that is a big one once we're in close. And then you've got the spinning hammer guy. It's vengeful hammers. Should, depending on how you're set up, might be your 9. And you're on your melee weapons. So you're going off your hammer and you're on your swords or staff, whatever it might be. And you're just auto attacking. All your cover con or support should be keeping you pretty well to the point where you can just only focus on damage. Step just outside of the red circles. You just keep the damage going. But most fights are not that simple where you just stand there for that long. So in a real fight, we'd go to Dwarf on the way in, we'd get our stab, we get our damage reduction, we whack them with the spinny hammers, we use our staff on them, and then the commander's calling, let's get the hell out of here, dodge off, we're moving off. And then you've got range again, and you can go back to your hammer and hit them from long range. Along with going back to your dragon. And then it just kind of repeats. You got to make sure your fury is pumping out with your facet. And you're hitting it with the hammer with the 2, 3, 5 and continue. Depending on the call, if you're going melee, dwarf melee weapon. If it's back off and range, go right back to your hammer and pump out wounds. That's like the most basic understanding of backline Revenant, and somebody that really plays it probably would call me out for a few things that they don't agree with, I'm sure. But it used to be.
The problem is the Revenant is super malleable because it's not based on cooldowns as much as energy management. So it really depends on what's going on in the fight with what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, you can do a lot of things. You can pump out a lot of boons. You can do CC. You can do direct damage. If you want to trade for a different legend, you can do resistance. Like the Rev can do crazy things. Like you can do alacrity. But you probably don't need all those things all at once, and some other classes in the group are probably already covering half that stuff. So that's kind of where the whole idea of group play and comp comes in. What do we actually need in this situation? And most of the time, it's just straight AoE damage. That 5 target long range damage. We don't really get very much from our current group or from just the amount of damage that we have currently. We need to get it up with a little more rev. You can actually just AoE this gate down. Just hit it with whatever you got. The old Rev used to be way more boon focused. It was all just the boons between the glint and then having that copied from the Mesmers doing Signet of Inspiration or whatever that was. But it's not that anymore, and the boons are pretty well covered by other classes. So the Rev's place is a lot more in just what they can do the best. And the alacrity you don't get on the Herald. That's I guess the point of
Trade-off.
Yeah. The Renegade's pumping out the alacrity, but they don't really have the boons according to some of the other stuff that Herald has.
Yeah.
The other thing, though, is if we have one Mesmer, we have Alacrity there already. So it's kind of... I don't know. Alacrity is kind of a weird thing. It's really good if you're doing siege and stuff, but its usefulness in a fight, it's kind of a trade-off. Is it worth it? I don't know.
Also, Mesmer Alacrity isn't as good because they're not focusing for that, and it's 10 man. The Renegade is 10-man Alacrity, so it covers 2 subgroups.
Yeah, I mean the Diviner Alacrity is a big thing people use a lot from PvE experience, and you know. Yeah, let's see if we can build this. I don't know if we have quite enough, but hopefully somebody got some back.
I got 3 back, so we should have enough.
Yeah, a lot more roaming is Renegade Condi builds, which I have very limited, basically zero understanding or experience with, but alright, using right. Pop this guard on the right. Yeah, that's kind of the short version. I mean, I guess not that short. As far as backline hammer rev, that's what we're looking for. A lot of, yeah, like Ulrich said, a lot of the rotation and order of what you're doing is situational.
Yeah, the key things to remember are your roads, which will be one of your highest damage skills. So when we push on to a group, your roads are going to be your big thing. But before we push on them, we're going to hit them. So what you're going to do is you're going to hit number 2 first, and then number 3. And because those are slow casts, those are probably going to be the only 2 skills that you get off, but they're enough to down people. So you do 2 and 3, and then as we push, drop road, and that will... Your damage should be pretty high up there. It'll spike really high at the beginning of the fight.
I hadn't even considered the damage on the road. I don't know if that was...
Yeah, it's one of the highest damage skills, like, because it hits so many people.
It is a huge square, yeah.
Yeah, it hits 5 people per little section. Just like it gives stability to more than 5 people, it hits more than 5 people. Like, so it gives stability to 5 people per section of it.
So as far as secondary weapons, that's a bit of something that varies or has changed.
People have been trying new things. Sword is viable. Staff is still just, like, their survivability.
Yeah, overall, I'd go with staff, especially if you're just getting on rev. The
Especially
5
for
movement
rangers
is
and stuff,
helpful.
you just pop number 3 and it blocks all the ranger pew-pews.
Spinny staffs thing, yeah. Yeah, the 5 and the 3 on staff are really nice for moving and not getting hit by things. And the swords have a teleport, but that can go bad as well as it can go good. You can get some nice burst out of them, a little close range, but
There's the power.
we have 2 random people up top. I haven't seen any enemies in this in a long time. Should we leave them alone?
I don't recognize them.
This is going to be a good practice then. So let's get our Fury going. One of them disappeared. We're going to hit him with the Rev 5 from underneath here. Pop him with the stun. Hit him with the 3.
The 3 can't hit that thing. It's your one skill is gonna be the best option for on top of towers this one.
Yeah, they were definitely AFK. Alright, let's kill a few more things up here and be pretty much done with our Rev training, but yeah, I mean, any questions, go for it. We are here to figure stuff out. I'm by no means a Rev expert. This is a nice group up here. We can kind of get them together. And don't forget you have 2 heal skills, so you do have your dragon heal and your dwarf heal, so if things go bad, you can swap and use the other heal. Let's resurrect him here. Let's back up, pull him out, back up. Ooh, yeah. Too much there.
Armor enhanced. That's how amazing
A little too squishy. Alright. If the blades hit hard. Good. Yeah, that's fine. We'll just respawn. GG. Beat by NPCs. I think I failed you all with that one.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's really, you can't play backline Rev by yourself. You can't roam with this. If your support is not good, you're not going to have a good time. So it's maybe even tough to play with a pug group. But if we're playing as a guild and we have our guardians and we have our NGs and we have our Tempest, yeah, you'll be fine. You can push right with the group. You don't have to be overly hesitant. I mean, between your damage mitigation and our group support, you're fine. You'll get barrier from the necros. You'll be, you step out of the group support and you'll get squished for sure. Somebody's gonna go right for you. But with the group, you can just glass cannon and pump out crazy damage and be fine with the group support. But yeah, thanks. If there's any questions that come up later with Revenant stuff, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
When would be a good scenario to use the dwarf stance?
Good question. So you have a stun break in there, so that's one of your few stun breaks. I mean, your one that you have in dwarf, I guess, but really it's the damage reduction that's a huge deal. I mean, 50% damage reduction that's nowhere else in the game. So if we're in a bad spot, or if we're pushing into something that's really going to be hot, go for it. That's going to pump out to the group, not just you.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Oh shit, but
your damage is gonna not be. So when we're like inside of a group, our damage is gonna be coming from necros and AoEs mostly. And so with our hammer revs, we hit hard at a range, we push in, we do our dwarf roads, and then I would use that elite and then swap back into dragon, because that will help our bunkering when we're inside the group. So like right when we get into the group, I would use the dwarf stance and then switch back into dragon so that I have access to the dragon heal, because just in case if you get caught out or like you start taking a ton of pressure, that's like you're basically invincible when you pop your heal skill in dragon for a second or two. So that's kind of the rotation that I would start out in. Would be like, we're dragon, but then we push on them, we hit them, swap to dwarf, you drop the road, you drop the elite, and by that time you swap back into dragon.
Oh, that reminds me, because this has changed quite a bit since I've messed with Rev, but the F2 changed quite a bit, and I don't know how it's played at all at this point. The facet of nature.
Well, it depends on what facet you're in. Not a lot of people have it built into their group comp, but yes, if you're in dwarf, you can use it to give stability to everybody. But when you're in dragon, everybody in your party gets extra concentration, essentially. Everybody's boons last longer. So, like, I mean, you can have it up. I would probably just use it for extra stability, to be honest. But
So just leave it alone until you're in dwarf, kind of. Or where does it give stability? Yeah, dwarf.
yeah, so when you're in dwarf, if you look at it, so then you use it. If you use it again, it'll grant stability. If
Gotcha.
you're not, if you're just upkeeping it, it's gonna, I believe it reduces damage. Yeah, so it's like extra protection. So if you have true nature, like you're upkeeping it, I don't know what you call it, when you're like have it charged and then you use Rite of the Great Dwarf, and if your firebrand has protection on your whole party is going to have tons of damage reduction. So your dwarf is going to reduce damage, your Rite of the Great Dwarf is going to half the damage you take, and then protection's also going to get rid of 40% damage reduction. So you're going to be super tanky for like 3 seconds.
So when you're calling for staff, would you want the heralds to use your true nature?
First it'd be the road, but yeah, then definitely the true nature if you can get that in.
I would use it, so generally when a commander's calling for stab, I would rely on firebrands. But if a bubble pops on us, I would use it then, if that makes sense. Do you agree with that, Kriff?
Definitely, yeah. The guardians are doing the main stability. So if you hear stab, don't necessarily drop what you're doing and pump out stab. But
Because if a bubble pops on us, our firebrands go through stability really fast, because then they have to dodge out and they have to reapply stab to everybody. But if we dodge out and the revenants apply 3 stacks of stab to their whole party, then the firebrands can save some stab. They might like just pop small stab on their elite or whatever.
I guess we mostly count on the guardians to have the early stability. But if we're doing a second push or anything and we need extra stability, or if we're in close, that'd be a good one for a road and an extra from the rev. But yeah, any other questions in there? Or
If anybody wants to learn Condition Renegade, you can just ask. Ask sometime. I can one-on-one with people.
That's an Alacrity build, a Renegade build that I picked up for more small group type purposes and things. I don't really know how to play it, but there it is. Yeah, thanks for coming along for that, and
Yeah, thanks for the training.
yeah, don't be afraid to bust out the rev. We always need revs, and it's fun to play. You can get just huge kills. Did you draw off the
You
edge?
didn't see that.
That's my job.